What's up, everybody? Ryan Michael Ballo here. Shift myself in front of the camera to do another podcast about nootropics and smart drugs, and particularly using smart drugs after the official workday is done. A use case for using smart drugs after the workday is done. I think this applies to all productive people, but for entrepreneurs specifically, and for startup founders, and for people that just have a lot to do during the day and have a lot of obligations and a lot of responsibilities, there's this whole, if you're one of those people that really just does not like wasting time, like I hate wasting time, I hate sitting there. I mean, it's one thing to relax, and reset and unplug, because you need that, but it's another thing to be in a good state, knowing you could work, sitting there being doing something else and knowing I have stuff that I could get done that's important. It just digs at my brain and I can't do that. So if you're one of those people that needs to get work done after hours, if there's more stuff to do, then there's a limit, I think, even if you've got the best diet and the best sleep and the best sort of otherwise self-optimization. There's a limit to your brain performance and your capacity to just sit there and do cerebral work for hours and hours and hours and hours. There's a limit to that. And so eventually, this is where nootropics come into play. And I think that, if you've watched any of my other videos on nootropics not being a method, a way of cheating through life, or why entrepreneurs and executives use nootropics, there's a common theme that I think about nootropics from, and that is the perspective of getting more out of the brain once you have essentially depleted all your reserves of neurotransmitter capacity and otherwise, functional energy capacity. It's an important thing, right? So if you run a business during the day and a lot of your energy is used up during the day and you go home and it's 6 p.m. and you're spent, you could do a few things. You could take a 20-minute nap, and that will reset you to the point where you can sit down and do some more cerebral work. I mean, there is the idea of building technology that actually works on the brain in a reset capacity identical or similar to that of a 20-minute nap is something I'm going to pursue in 10 years, in the future, and is an interesting thing, because that whole dynamic when you go to sleep and take a nap for 20 minutes and the reset that you get and the brain capacity you have thereafter is pretty profound. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, another way of doing it might be to meditate, to do some yoga, etc. And you're going to get some capacity out of yourself to go and do some more cerebral work. But if you want that work to be as energized as you are mentally in the morning or at 12 p.m. after you ate a breakfast and you've done some meditation and you're ready to go crush the day, then nootropics are a good way to get yourself to be in that place. I sort of think that, kind of expanding on the idea that whatever dietary strategies and sleep protocols you engage in, you have limitations. I think that is totally the case. That's exactly the case. I have, over the course of the last 6 years, while experimenting with nootropics and experimenting with trying to just improve my brain in every imaginable way, in every way possible, I've come to realize that there just seems to be a cap on the amount of performance that I can get out of myself up to a certain point. After that point, when you've gotten that much performance out of yourself and you just cannot perform anymore mentally, cognitively, in terms of cerebral stuff, there is a way to fix that. It's not like there's a limit and that limit is definite. There's a way to fix it. And this is where you have to start getting very, very rigorous with your hacks, and also very careful not to deplete your brain of important things, because you're hitting yourself in a very vulnerable place. But I think that because there are energy limitations, there's just a point at which you got to get serious and be like, okay, now it's 7 p.m. I've been working all day. I've been doing a lot of stuff, trying to get stuff done. If I want to get, if I want to get more stuff done, because I need to, I've got this deadline, I've got this, I've got that. Let's face it, we've got stuff to do, all of us, especially very busy people, especially productive people. I'm going to need to do something else to my brain. I'm going to need to optimize. I need to get a little more crafty with how I'm going to facilitate brain function here. And if a nap is not doing it, or meditation is not doing it, or other things aren't doing it, which they should be, in a lot of cases, your first line of defense. But if you want that extra bit, smart drugs, easily smart drugs. And I'll tell you a couple that really work for me in this situation, allow me to run a business during the day, hustle all day and be stressed out and use my brain a lot, and then go home, and when it's 6 p.m. after I eat dinner, go home and hustle more and have all the energy that I need to be as effective as I need to in creating the outcomes that are the most important to me. Number one of the best nootropics for me in that case to get that extra edge at nighttime is aniracetam. Aniracetam is a racetam smart drug, and it's awesome. I mean, for a lot of people, the sort of consensus seems to be that it allows them to focus for longer periods of time. So this thing called focus endurance increases. For me, both focus endurance increases and my capacity to hold more data in my working memory at one time improves. So that's very useful. And then also, like, if I'm doing something which requires like the written word, if I'm doing a blog post or like work for me is going on the Reddit threads, nootropic Reddit forum, and responding to people and talking to people about nootropics, right? Because partially I need to get them aware of Cortex nootropic. That's one way to do it. And also I've been spending a lot of my time there in the last 5 years, 6 years, reading everybody's posts anyway, because it's very interesting. It's the nootropics, it's the Reddit nootropics thread. It's like crazy sick. It's awesome. And so aniracetam helps me to be able to move through all of that information and process all that information and give my, engage in output and give my input in situations a lot better. The second nootropic I would say is if I'm cycling on it for the time, because I think Cortex is a nootropic like most that affect the acetylcholine system that you should cycle on and off of, is Cortex. Hands down Cortex. And that's what I was so excited about in the beginning. Like when I first found the milligram quantity of the ingredients that worked for me, and then I replicated it through beta testers, I was just psyched about it because I could sit down and work for like 5-6 hours straight without even thinking about taking a break. I didn't even want to go to the bathroom. I didn't want to eat and drink water. I just want to work straight, and I could do it having worked an entire day of engaging in stressful stuff running my business. So it was like amazing. So Cortex Generation 1, specifically that targets the acetylcholine system, that is a surefire way to get a lot of work out of yourself from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. Interestingly, a lightweight, I guess, in a lot of people's opinions, but works really awesome for me if I want to cycle off of the smart drugs, or I want to cycle off of whatever I might be taking at the time, or if I just want to go herbal from the perspective of being like, I just want to go herbal today. Ginkgo Biloba. Ginkgo Biloba has a noticeable effect on my focus endurance. It's awesome. At 6 p.m. comes around and I've worked throughout the day and I'm just sort of spent. I might take a shower, sit in some freezing cold water in the shower. That really helps to turn on brain performance after you're stressed throughout the day. But I still can't get myself, even after eating a dinner with salmon with a ton of omega-3 in it, I just can't, my brain just does not want to work. There's something going on. Maybe I've got some oxidative damage from the day taking place, which is very typical. Ginkgo Biloba. Ginkgo Biloba clears it right out. 20 minutes, I'm back to work. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So the focused endurance goes up tremendously. My verbal fluency always seems to be improved taking Ginkgo Biloba. And probably about, I don't remember, 350 to 450 milligrams, something small. But people dose in the 900 milligram arena with ginkgo. So I guess you should sort of test that out and figure out what works for you. But ginkgo biloba should not, be discounted when it comes to getting that extra power, that extra brain power to work at nighttime. I think specific cholinergics certainly work for that problem too, but I think you really have to be careful with cholinergics in terms of the quantity that you use. The most common ones are alpha GPC, cytidine, 5-diphosphocholine, CDP choline, and I guess to a lesser extent DMAE and centrophenoxine. You just have to be careful. Don't take a lot of them. A lot of the cholinergics make people super tired and super foggy and unable to work. It's a counterproductive measure, taking those cholinergics, if taken in excess. People think they need to take 1,000 milligrams of alpha GPC, 1,000 milligrams of CDP choline, just because a lot of the studies on these nootropics are in the very high dose range. They need to be that way. Most studies are in the high dose range. I mean, I've taken glycine before, and all of the studies on glycine point to the highest effective, the minimum effective dose essentially being 1,000 milligrams or more. And I've got a benefit from taking L-glycine at 300 milligrams. So the studies really don't set you up for success on determining the best and most effective dosage for a particular nootropic. And when you're fussing with the cholinergics, take them at small doses. So I would suggest with alpha GPC, specifically taking something like 100 milligrams. 100 milligrams alpha GPC is going to do a lot of people really pretty well. And if that gives you fog or impairs your capacity at some level, go down to 60 or 70 milligrams. Same thing with CDP choline. The absorption rate for CDP choline is somewhere around 97%. It's been stated on examine.com as being near absolute. And it has a very, very long half-life. So it stays in your body and stays affecting your brain for quite some time. So CDP choline, stick with 50 to 100 milligrams and just stop. I think people like have the capacity with nootropics to just want to stack everything and like make like these 9 nutrient stacks and take each one of them in like 800 milligram quantities. Crazy, way overload. It's bound to create some negative results and isn't particularly optimal. So that's what I would say for some of the cholinergics. DMAE and centrophenoxine I'm not a huge fan of because they even in very small doses they've given me a noticeable tiredness, and I'm not really sure what's going on there. They're not. I don't believe that they're just precursors to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine like a lot of people in the nootropics community think. I think there's a little more to that going on, and that's why you get a different effect from that versus CDP choline versus alpha GPC versus whatever other cholinergic. But some people seem to have some good results with that, depending on maybe the atrophy of their brain and the acetylcholine system. If you read the Amazon reviews for centrophenoxine, Jarrow formulas, centrophenoxine, there's a lot of people that get a lot of good results taking like 300 milligram, 600 milligram capsules that come from Jarrow. And these people are 55 years old and been having short-term memory issues for like the greater part of the last 5 years. So that makes sense there, right? And that's kind of it. Caffeine, I guess caffeine would be a nootropic that you could use in this case. I just think that for me particularly, I just can't drink it at nighttime. I used to be able to drink caffeine at 5 p.m. I'd have some tea or maybe a cup of coffee. And believe it or not, I actually was able to still go to sleep. These days, never happened. I drink caffeine at 2 p.m., 11 a.m., a cup of coffee, and rather than going to sleep at 11:40, which is when I normally can fall asleep, based on my schedule, my brain schedule right now, I'm up to like 2:30, like thinking, and I can't go to sleep, and I know it's the caffeine. So, if you don't have the problem, caffeine after a good shower and maybe some meditation and some yoga to really start blood flow flowing through the body and to get the prefrontal cortex to calm down and some energy regulation to start happening. Caffeine really might be, an amazing solution right there. Particularly if you're taking a 20-minute nap at nighttime and then you throw down a little bit of caffeine. That really, really might work very well. Let's think. Anything else that I can think of? I mean, God, all those that I talked about are really my go-to nootropics for that situation. So I guess we'll leave it at that. But I think theoretically you could use piracetam. Modafinil will probably interfere with sleep at some capacity, but if you're taking it at any time of the day, it's probably going to do that anyway. So modafinil would be another one. I think any other smart drugs. For those of you who get a benefit from the Siltep stack, that might work. I'm not one of them, and that's based on my brain chemistry, because there's a lot of people that get a great benefit from that stack. Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain's another one. Alpha Brain's a good one, and they use in the Alpha Brain stack, as far as I can tell, not a whole lot of alpha GPC, which is good. Which is a good thing. They've got some huperzine A there. I'm not sure the quantity of huperzine A, but that stuff really seems to, when taken in the right dosages. Excess huperzine A is a big problem, but when taken in the right dosages, works. I don't think it should be taken consistently because inhibiting acetylcholine esterase is not a good thing to do long term. There's a lot of studies to back that up. You should go read them if you're concerned about that. But a dose of Alpha Brain at nighttime or at 5-6 p.m. or something is going to give you some good mental juice to go do some work thereafter. I can't say that I've really tried some of the other stacks out there like Optimind. I think they're probably great people behind the product, but it's got huperzine A in it, and it's basically just like what a lot of nootropic companies like to do, which is put a whole bunch of the sort of usual suspects in one stack and just say, here's our stack, but it might work great for some people. I have read, to their defense, a lot of really good testimonials for Optimind, I think it's called. And so, and so maybe Optimind will work for you. I guess I'll end off on phenylpiracetam. Phenylpiracetam, though it's not like one of my favorites because it gives me kind of weird energy, There have been times when I've taken phenol piracetam at nighttime and I've been able to get that extra energy to just crank workout, so it really did work. Phenol piracetam, one of the racetam smart drugs with a phenol group attached to it to make it more absorbable or more effective in some way. And it works. It'll give you that extra energy pretty much for sure. But I would say, finishing up here, don't discount Ginkgo Biloba, a very little bit of CDP choline, maybe even 100 milligrams of uridine monophosphate and 50 milligrams of alpha GPC taken together, they synergize. Definitely don't discount some of those, what would seem like lightweight options, but really work toward facilitating great brain function, and allowing you to get that extra productivity later on in the day. Finishing it off and summing it up, it's important, for those of us who have a lot to get done, and those of us particularly that just cannot stand wasting time. We need that extra energy at nighttime, and we want to get stuff done, and we want to have the capacity to do it. So nootropics this is a great use case for nootropics for people that need to get stuff done to get that extra energy from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. If you have not tried Cortex, our flagship nootropic, try it. $40 a bottle. You'll love it. If you hate it, you never have to try it again, but I think you'll love it. Please share this if you loved it. And if you have any other nootropics to add, please comment wherever you can comment, whether this is on YouTube or the Live Cortex blog. Thanks for watching.